bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
My sweet cheeks feeling squeaky clean when Charmin's rolling behind the scenes. Charmin TV gives me those cheeky clean feels. That ultra strong hype is all for real. Those TV rolls got me on Charmin clean tooketh. Cheek to cheek feeling oh so shooketh.
Charmin Ultra Strong just cleans better. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
iHeart celebrates the legends that pioneered some of the greatest expressions of music that have ever been created. Anthems that have changed the way we think, changed the way we feel, and changed the world we live in. Open the free iHeart app and check out our Black Music Month playlist. Plus, incredible podcasts that explore the history and artistry behind the music. With hosts like Michelle Williams, Jeezy, Questlove, and more. Honoring Black Music Month on the free iHeart app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners and Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 9th, 2021. Rondo Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Oh, Charlton is fantabulous, as they would say down here, Charlton. Last night was great to sit back and watch a professional athlete throw out wolf tickets just like in the old days. Donovan Mitchell said last night of the Los Angeles Clippers, once they get a little pressure on them, they'll fold up like a cheap chalupa from Taco Bell. And I be damned, if late in the game, they didn't do it once the pressure got on them. That sphincter got a little tight, and they folded like a sheet, Charlton. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They'll be there to take those creases out and take that hot sauce out of their eyes when they finish their crime.
It's always nice to have a tight sphincters off. Fan Level War. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I learned to pause, Big C. My martial arts instructor says if you pause, then you can strike better. It's all fair and love and war, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, a lot more people are catching on, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everybody should be concerned about the plight of our veterans as well as our everyday citizens, Charlton. We have so many people in America that commit suicide, unfortunately, and over 24 veterans do that also, Charlton, on a daily basis. We can stop that, Charlton. It's part of mental health awareness.
Yeah.
Everyone is concerned about physical health. Are they in shape? You know, do they need to lose weight? Is their blood pressure high? Charlton, mental health is just as important as physical health because without one, you cannot have the other.
Yep.
And we need to pay more attention to that when it comes to our veterans and even our everyday citizens. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, but our veterans have a lot more pressure on them than just everybody else. When you think about what they've gone through in serving this country with dignity, Charlton, and they come back to this country in civilian life and don't get the same respect, we have to find a way as a culture to give more of it to them.
Very well said. RESPECT, Aretha told us about it. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to help put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships are doing it, sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see our apps pop up from anywhere in the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. My goodness, Big C, you were saying something about some sphincters getting tight at Taco Bell. Do they have the Big C taco at Taco Bell, Big C?
Well, maybe the Los Angeles Clippers got a little bit of hot sauce on their pizza last night, folded up. But, you know, they felt the pressure up in Utah. It wasn't about the altitude, Charleston. It was about the great athleticism from Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert leading that Utah Jazz, Charleston, to a thumping of the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. You know, I love one of the things I love about NBA basketball is you know, in football you can say, oh, somebody missed a block. In baseball you say, oh, someone dropped a fly ball. It was right in the palm of his glove when he just dropped it. But when it comes to basketball, usually only one person can shoot the ball through the hoop, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Donovan Mitchell was dropping them on the Clippers last night, Charlton. This was a team that had, you know, seemed like an unsurmountable lead, you know, in the first half, and all of a sudden Utah said, okay, we've let them go out and have a little fun. Now it's time to bring out that whooping stick.
Yeah, sometimes the parent says to the child, it's time to come home. But, you know, I disagree. I think sometimes they got robbed, but it's all fair enough and war. Of course, if any team in California loses, they get robbed. But I will say, you even have
I mean, in California, the way you talk is a state full of criminal stuff, because you're talking about criminal offenses on a regular basis, about robbing people and stuff. But, you know, I mean, when you went out there last night and Rudy Gobert, I guess you wanted to call that a goaltend at the end of the game.
It was a goaltend, DC. He actually fouled them, but no one's going to show the replay. It's all fair and level. And when it's 40 million people, you're bound to have a few bad apples. It's all fair and level war, Big C. But the great Donovan Mitchell, he dropped 45 points in Game 1. To win that game, there was a time where they just could not find the bottom of the basket until the NBA turned on that magnet, Big C, and everything started going through. But the great Donovan Mitchell in front of Karl Malone, and I gotta beat this pick. What is it? And I know nobody's gonna talk about it, but why is Dwayne Wade coaching from the sidelines? He's a part owner of the team, but shouldn't he have his butt up in the press box and not be coaching on the sidelines? Isn't that illegal tampering, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't think that anybody's ever complained about Steve Ballmer being down on the sideline voicing his opinion, as well as Mark Cuban. But now all of a sudden we get a black man in there doing that, Charlton, and you want to have a say-so in it.
No,
but I mean, regardless of what you say from the sideline, it's about the productivity that happens between the out there on the court. And Donovan Mitchell last night by himself showed Paul George and Kawhi Leonard who was the true alpha male in the mountains last night.
Yeah, he may have been an alpha male in the mountains last night. I don't remember Michael Jordan doing that or even Magic Johnson, but it's all fair level where people can coach no matter what they wanted to do. The great Donovan Mitchell, he actually came out of his cave. He was off for 40 days. I don't know, he was doing something. Everybody has some type of injury nowadays, Big C. I guess it's hamstring season, but dropping 45 points. The great Donovan Mitchell. And one person that's an NBA Hall of Famer said he would never be a star. I guess that guy's eating his words, Big C. But the great Donovan Mitchell dropping 45 points. He scored more than Kawhi, more than Paul George, who doesn't understand numbers. If you're 3 from 14, maybe you should drive to the basket when you get 3 from 7. But why go 3 from 14 and you still shooting in this all-fair level war? You think about this. Leading Utah to a thrilling victory over the LA Clippers. Yeah, I thought it was a foul on Gobert, but they weren't going to show that part, Big C. But that's just my opinion, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, this was a team that did what they needed to do last night to win, to maintain home court advantage, Charlton. They were the best team in the NBA throughout the regular season, so there was no fear of any California team coming into Utah. These are not the same boys that they ran across in Texas. You got to understand the stakes in Utah are just as big as the stakes in Texas when they put them on the grill. And last night there was Clipper barbecue, so I guess it was seafood on the grill.
Yeah, they call it seafood. That means you see the food that you get, and the food they got last night was some home cooking from the Wasatch Mountains. What a beautiful backdrop, the Wasatch Mountains in beautiful Utah, Big C. But I just love the way Donovan Mitchell, he played like the alpha male that a lot of people thought he was not, Big C. He definitely is an alpha male, and no one can say that he's not, even if the great Dwayne Wade is doing some tampering when the game was going on. But also, I want to bring it to another portion of the game. A lot like the great, I love watching Paul George play when he played college ball at Fresno State, doing his thing for Indiana. Now he's in Los Angeles. Maybe he's a little bit of a backseat to the great Kawhi Leonard, Big C, and I think he's still going to come out of his shell. But I'll be that as it may, the great Rudy Gobert, the game-saving foul block, in my opinion, it's called a foul block when you're in Utah, Big C, and the Jazz big man swats away the Clippers' dreams of a Game 1 win. As the Vivint Arena goes wild, I guess COVID is over in Utah, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got a lot of open space up there in the Wasatch Mountains in Utah, Charlton. But, I want to go back to Kawhi Leonard when you're talking about who's supposed to be one of the greatest defensive players in the NBA. You realize in the last 2 games that he has played, Charlton, to the guys that he has guarded, he has given up 91 points. Think about that. He's given up 91 points in the last 2 games to Luka Doncic and Donovan Mitchell. So is people thinking about Kawhi Leonard as being a defensive stopper? Maybe he needs to stop the tape and run it back to the years of old.
Well, he is a little bit older. He's played so many championships games, Big C, and all of a sudden I hear that I heard some older men at a camp one time, at a campsite, and they were talking to some young boys, and the young boys were saying, "Oh, look at all those pretty girls down there at that campsite. Let's run down there and meet some of them, Big C." And the old man said, "Freeze. Let's walk down there and meet them all, Big C." That make any sense to you?
Well, Kawhi Leonard needs to take a step back, Charlton, and figure out what a young man needs to do as far as trying to keep up with these younger players on the court. When you think about Luka Doncic, he's 22 years old. He schooled Kawhi Leonard. People wanted to rave about how good a job that Kawhi Leonard did on him defensively, but when a player drops damn near half of 100 on you, that's not too good of a job, just from my perspective. And then turn around a couple days later, and the next man up drops 45 on you. You got to be checking your jock strap.
Maybe I missed the game. Was Luka Doncic playing in the game last night, Big C? Maybe I missed that one, Big C. Your thoughts?
I said in the last 2 games, Kawhi Leonard has been the top defensive player allegedly in the NBA. He's given up 91 points, Charlton, to his 2 opponents. Luka Doncic, the previous game, had 46. Donovan Mitchell had 45 last night. Okay, I just thought I heard rumors that Luka Doncic was hanging out on GR Ranch, on the GR Ewing Ranch down in Texas. Yeah, he's sitting down there in L.A. with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They all talking.
Yeah, he was looking at the championship rings that the Lakers have and wondering, how can I get one of those? It's all fair level word, Big C. Kind of like when people say you eat the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, and they want to know, how can I get me one of those? It's all fair in level war. But it did seem a little bit weird in real time that the Clippers, some people say they tanked in the last game of the season so that they would get the Jazz, Big C. And people were saying they were tanking for whatever reason. All I know is there were some people that guaranteed that they would not make it out of the first round. So not all guarantees are good, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, last night the Clippers got their Jazz kicked last night, y'all.
Yeah, it's all fair in 11 war. But like they told the Dallas Mavericks, you guys sound a lot taller on the radio. And when you get man-to-man, sometimes people act a little bit different. It's all fair in 11 war. But I will say something about what happened last night. I mean, COVID is what it is. Some people are going to get vaccinated. Some people are not. There's a lot right now. If you watch television, I don't see much of it lately. But they were doing a running count last year talking about the number of COVID fatalities. And people don't realize more people die of heart disease than they did of COVID, but they don't run every heart attack every minute on the screen of television, Big C. But whatever happened in Utah, do you think that's a smart choice, where even in some cities they're still saying no more than maybe a 10% capacity, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, it's to each his own. It comes down to the state and the state's criteria as far as respecting and recognizing what COVID-19 can do to individuals. And it's also about the individual, Charlton, that they have to think about their own safety and health and welfare as well as the person next to them.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible.
Yeah, you got to be responsible, but sometimes it just seems like people They just get that itch, Big C, and they think they can just take some medication for it, but not every.
You got to go to the doctor when you got an itch.
Yeah, if you got a doctor, sometimes the doctor may have his own itch to worry about. It's all fair in level war. Maybe that crowd's going to be sanitized free. But let me give a thought to you also. You have the great Karl Malone that was in the arena last night, maybe the greatest Utah Jazz of them all, Big C. Talking to Malone, but no one can argue that Malone wasn't the greatest Jazz of them all, especially in that era. I know it's early. We don't want to do what Dennis Green said and crown him. You want to crown him. But the great Donovan Mitchell did his thing, Big C. I want to think about something. I think there was a taunt that was happening to the great Paul George when he was at the free throw line. I think there was about 10 minutes, 11 seconds remaining. And the Jazz fans were saying, blankety blank Paul George in the playoffs. Do you celebrate that you won the game after you win game one of a 7-game series like the Mavericks did? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, let's put it in your perspective, Charlton. The Lakers are still playing, and you're going to recrown them the NBA champions this year. You celebrate every game, Charlton, because it's a game at a time. And you enjoy that victory, and you get all out of it as you can. This is the reason why fans buy the seats. You allow them to have their autonomy within the arena as long as they stay within the guidelines of the NBA. And if they're not doing anything that the NBA doesn't allow, Charlton, they're allowed to do it. It happens all the time. Just like with Giannis. Giannis go to the free throw line. They in Philadelphia, they put a 10-second clock on it.
Yeah.
Early in the year, Giannis had a 10-second violation at the free throw line.
Really?
The NBA has put in play here in the playoffs that there'll be no more 10-second clock in the arena when Giannis goes to the free throw line.
Yeah.
But it still does not stop the fans from having a 10-second countdown to show that he's gone more than 10 seconds between shots.
Yeah, I will say congratulations to the Utah fans for being a little bit more well-raised than the fans in New York City that are saying blankety blank Trae Young. It's all fan level. But back to Paul George.
You must have never played a game or attended a game in Utah.
Yeah.
But the mouths that are on those people in Utah that are supposed to be these so-called religious people, Charlton, are as bad as any mouths in any arena in sports.
Yeah. Hey, the good book says, do as I say, not as I do. Is all fair in love and war of religion. I mean, people were lynched with the Bible in the religious man's hand, if that makes sense to you. But back to the game, all-star guard, the great Paul George that I liked at time. He has so much potential, but I know he dealt with some mental health issues he was talking about last year. But he missed 12 of his first 14 shots, to the delight of the fans at the Jazz fans, Big C. But when I think about how Paul George had a horrible game, Kawhi Leonard had a horrible game, it's like Utah played as well as they could play, and didn't get the foul called on Gobert when he hit the hand of the shooter with about 3 seconds left trying to shoot a three. And they still just eked out a win, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you think about the Clippers had an 18-point lead. So you're talking about eking out a win, and yet you erase an 18-point lead, Charlton. I think that's called dominance. And when you talk about Kawhi Leonard having a poor shooting night and Paul George having a poor shooting night, I call that defense from a Utah perspective. You got to understand, you're talking about one of the top defensive teams in the NBA, Charlton, during the regular season, and that is carried over into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, the guy who was in the game, the great Paul George, said it's playoff basketball, and he said when asked about matching Utah's physical play, which is like football, he said the physicality has to be allowed on both ends. And I'll leave it at that because we all saw on the West Coast how that...
It's always a bucket of tears for the team that's losing, is that they're the only ones that's ever complaining. And now Paul George is going to sit there and say that he got fouled and he didn't foul anybody.
Yeah, Paul George doesn't lie. He's from California, Big C. He does not lie. And everybody can see with their own two eyes that the league allowed Utah to get back into that game last night. But it's all fair level where in California, we watch the game with our eyes open, not with our eyes closed. It's all fair in love and war. But I want to take you to another NBA game where your friend, I know you like to cheer for this guy, his name is Nikola Jokic. He was named the 2020 NBA MVP. And to show you how crooked some people are, the great Joel Embiid only got one vote, Big C. Why give the best center of the league one vote? Maybe because he's black. But they gave Jokic all the votes that they could get except for one. It's all fair level war. The Nuggets center, the great Nikola Jokic, has been named this year's NBA MVP. For people who watch the game with their eyes closed, this does mark the first time that he's won the award, Big C. He's only 26 years old. He's also the first Denver Nugget player to win the award in what was a career year for Denver. And also, you can't even watch them on TV at home, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it was a career year for Jokic. I mean, you think about it. He is the first player in NBA history to not be drafted in the top 15 to win the Most Valuable Player award. Yes, but when you think about Joel Embiid, Jokic showed up every night. Embiid chose to take too many nights off, Charlton. And the last I checked, you got to show up to participate. And if you don't show up, then you're a no-show. And so when you're a no-show, it doesn't count in the statistics.
Yeah, I know you're his biggest fan, and all the people who couldn't even see the Denver Nuggets play on TV in Denver, what a shame. They don't have that cable situation worked out. They have a guy who's been given the mainstream MVP award, just like Malcolm X did not win an Oscar. The great Denzel Washington didn't win an Oscar because some other movie that nobody even remembers won it. They gave Joker the MVP, and congratulations to him, Big C. But it's a shame the fans in Denver could not see him play, and they still got votes out of the Denver market. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about the respect that he got from the rest of the NBA, Charlton, receiving 91 first-place votes.
Yeah.
91. So that means that there's some NBA markets that recognize his great talent and his play throughout the year.
Yeah.
Think about it. As a player in the NBA, you can always have guys in the running for an award.
Yeah.
But it's like if you missing at bat at the plate in baseball, you automatically are called out because you don't make it there in time, Charlton. And that's what it is. Jokic showed up for all 72 games. Players want to sit around and say, I'm injured, and, whatever and whatever. Jokic played through that. He showed up 72 times during the regular season. Joel Embiid, when you look at him, he showed up 51 times during the regular season. So those 51 times that he didn't show up, did the Philadelphia 76ers win any of those games without him?
Well, I guess we should have an award for perfect attendance. They give those out in high school and college. It's all fair and level award. But taking nothing away from him, he did average 26.4 points, 10.8 rebounds, 8.3 assists, while shooting 57% from the floor in Denver this year. And they cannot watch him in the city of Denver. That's just crazy. Led the team in all four categories. He didn't miss a single game appearing in all 72 regular season contests. Even the one where they got beat by 17 points by the Phoenix Suns, he didn't miss that game either, Big C. The Joker is originally from Serbia, played professionally there. When you think about it, before he was even selected, as you mentioned, he was the 44th pick, the 41st pick in the 2014 draft. He's also the lowest draft pick in NBA history to win the award. And just congratulations to him. He knows he's not the best player in the NBA, but he got the mainstream vote, and that's all that counts in America and in politics, Big C. When I go across the aisle to the guy where every NBA player, whether they're on TV or not, they say, how in the world are we just giving anybody an award now? You look at the Sixers center, the great Joel Embiid, he's the center, whether he plays one game or 80 games, Big C, that guy's the best center in the NBA. And then you think about Stephen Curry, who was also, he got some of the votes, but people didn't say that him setting records was good enough, Big C. They were also finalists for the award, but Embiid's inability to stay healthy, it may have cost him to miss 21 games. And Kevin Durant also missed some games, so I guess he's not the best player in the NBA because he missed some games. But Curry's team failed to make the playoffs. They had that play-in game. They were knocked out by the Memphis Grizzlies. In Jokic's case, all the more strong. They lost by 17 points to the Suns, but he did lead the Denver Nuggets to the number 3 seed at 47-25. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, I've played on 3 different levels in sports, Charlton. I played high school, college, and professional. And every time that we had an MVP in either one of those levels, Charlton, it was for participation. Somebody who was there all the time and that you could count on them. Not to somebody who spent half the season sitting on the bench saying that he was hurt or even ineligible. So, I mean, when you look at the Most Valuable Player award, not just this year, but every year in the NBA, it's been given to the player that is out there on the floor, night in and night out, whether it's in football, basketball, and baseball. It's not the guy that shows up periodically and says that I want to play.
Yeah, not even one Jazz player finished in that voting, and maybe they could say that what they saw in the great Donovan Mitchell last night was not NBA even.
Well, I think that you're one of the players, one of the people who continuously say that Utah is not the best team in the NBA. I've heard you say that throughout the past couple of months, that everybody else is better, but yet they had the best record in the league. And if you ask the Los Angeles Clippers last night with that tight sphincter, who was better?
Yeah, well, people can say what they want to say, Big C. It's just my opinion. I know you said Dallas would be playing in this round, but I don't think you missed that call, but it's all fair.
I'm just like you with the Lakers. They'll be tipping off at the championship game this year.
Well, the Lakers have a championship trophy, and the guys you follow don't have them.
They got a whole lot of them in the past.
Yeah,
the past tense is what's gone. That's what we call history. We're talking about today. We can either live in the past or we can advance.
Well,
right now, we're advancing through the NBA playoffs, and the Lakers at home drowning in some beer and tears.
Big C, who's the last NBA championship? I just want to get, if you know that, maybe you don't know it. Would you say their name?
The last NBA champion will be this year, Charlton, in the next month.
Okay, so you don't know it, so I'll tell the whole sports universe. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. They're the last NBA champion, and they're still the champion until a new champion is crowned. That's something you guys can all Google. But I want to talk about real quick, before we come up on the Big C pause, the great Joel Embiid. If you can say that you saw what he did last night was not the most dominating performance, then just throw all credibility out the window, Big C. I guess Denzel Washington really should not have won an Oscar for Malcolm X. It's all fair and level war, but he started with a loss and ended with a win, perhaps his most impressive playoff performance to date. The Philadelphia 76ers, 118-102, beat down over the Atlanta Hawks on Tuesday, and word is he bought Philly cheesesteaks for everybody, and he said, no, I want the big C burger. It comes with exotic meat, and they ordered extra Falcon or extra Hawk meat on those Big C burgers. But when you think about it, Big C, after he was told that he got one vote, one vote in NBA MVP voting to the guy that lost by 17 points, he went out and dominated, Big C. And suddenly people who watch the game with their eyes, they realize that everybody gets an award now, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, he's had two outstanding games against the Atlanta Hawks, but the Atlanta Hawks, thus far in the two games, are ahead in that series because they have taken home court advantage away from the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, Joel Embiid played an outstanding game last night, but the game was not won by him. It was won by a player off the bench because without him, Joel Embiid would have just had two back-to-back great games and two losses in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and if I hit all six numbers in the lotto, I'd be hit $250 million, Big C. But this is a guy, for people that really know the game, and you're not focused on just paying attention to what mainstream tells you to do. That's what a lot of people do. They say, boy, you better not say anything against what I tell you. This is what people got to believe they didn't see with their own two eyes. The great Joel Embiid, and all you NBA guys, you know it's true. He dropped 39 points against Atlanta on Sunday. He dropped 40 last night, making him the first player since LeBron James, the defending NBA champion, in 2015, the NBA Finals Cavaliers-Warriors games, those are great games back in the day, to score at least 39 points in the first two games of a playoff series. And he got one vote in the MVP voting because they let even blind people vote. No offense to blind people, Big C. His teammate, when you think about it, Ben Simmons, could only muster 4 points, and something's wrong with Ben Simmons. Maybe he's just emotionally, maybe he's dealing with something. Everybody has stuff to deal with.
He can't play against great defensive players, Charles, but he's never been an articulate shooter in the NBA. No one has ever feared Ben Simmons' offensive game. But you got to state that he's an Achilles heel right now when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers because he lacks productivity. Well, when you think about the Philadelphia Sixers last night, Charlton, if not for Shaq Milton, this team was going to go down. Shaq Milton came off the bench late in the third quarter, Charlton, and set a fire under the Philadelphia 76ers because without his 14-point production last night, this team would have been down 0-2 to the Hawks.
No, they would have had someone else fill in, basically. He did come in and get 14 points. Did not play in the first half, but promptly buried a quick three for Philadelphia's first bench points in 34 minutes, and that's good to have somebody come off the bench. But if anyone can say...
But they were trailing at that point when Shaq Milton came in off the bench, Charlton. The Hawks had erased a lead that the Sixers had established, and they were in trouble. Shaq Milton came onto the court and set a fire. You think about a guy putting in 14 points in less than a quarter, and he had not played all game prior to that, Charlton. And here's Ben Simmons been out there all night, could only muster 4. So if you had your druthers between Ben Simmons and Shaq Milton last night as far as offensive productivity, Shaq Milton was the X factor in the game. We can give Joel Embiid his points. He had those same points in game one, and they lost. but they did not have any bench production in Game 1 against the Hawks.
Yeah.
In Game 2, they had bench production, as you mentioned. They didn't have any bench production in the first 34 minutes. All of a sudden, Shaq Milton comes in, sets the place on fire, and Philadelphia stretches the lead.
Yeah, Shaq Milton came in, and Doc even had the great Ben Simmons sit next to him and watch the game. Like a lot of guys are sitting home watching the game. It's all fair in love and war. But if anyone, before we get up on the Big C pause, I want to apologize to the great Joel Embiid. Here you are dropping 79 points in 2 games, and you get 1 MVP vote. Just like with Black Americans, they say throw out the votes. They throw out some votes or they don't watch it. It's all fair in love and war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, there's more NBA basketball to talk about, even the game tonight. In the words of the great Otto Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow Big C Sports, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Comcast Spotlight, and I really appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You know, it's interesting because I love this game of basketball. I've loved it ever since I was a little boy, and all the talk about who the best players are, who the best teams are. No matter how many great players there are, there's only one championship trophy given out at the end of the year. Right now, it's Western and Los Angeles, California, with the other 17 championships that they have down there at Big C. But they have a friend in town. His name is Steve Ballmer, and he's following in their footsteps. You know, they say follow the yellow brick road to get to the Wizard of Oz. So they're building this arena over in Inglewood. He already bought the dirt over there at Big C. But I think about the Clippers, you know, they would probably do better just not being in the backyard of the most famous franchise in the history of the NBA basketball, along with the Boston Celtics as far as championships. But they are the Clippers battling from a Southern man's point of view? The Clippers maybe are battling the Jazz on their own, I guess you could call it a cursed history, if that makes sense to you. Think about this, 50 seasons, 3 cities, 0 conference finals appearances, with arguably the game's best postseason closer in total Big C. Could this be the year the Los Angeles takes that longer way to step forward? If they keep getting beaten up like a football team against the Utah Jazz, the way the NBA wants it, then it's going to be more difficult, Big C, I thought.
Well, Charlton, I mean, anybody can find an excuse for not putting the ball through the basket. I mean, it comes down to that. But the game is being played on both ends of the court. And when you're getting an uncontested three-point shot, Charlton, and you're clanging it off the rim, I don't think you're being beaten up other than by the rim.
Yeah, well, I believe Paul George, he's an honest man, Big C. And all we need are a few good honest men. It's all fair level war. But in the closing seconds...
I think while he was there in college, right after he left, they went on probation.
No, I can't confirm or deny, Big C, what the paperback fist provides or not. In the closing seconds of Game 1 loss to Utah, and that foul that was not called when Gobert's hand hit the shooter, Big C, but, you know, people didn't see that either. Amid the sullen faces of the Los Angeles sidelines, you can see almost some of the ghostly vestiges of the Clippers' past. Guys like Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, who's playing out of his mind in Brooklyn right now. DeAndre Jordan, the core of the Lob City, a free-wheeling, rim-running team, Big C, that won their franchise's first 2 division titles and averaged 54.6 wins per season between 2013 and 2017, Big C. But they just had 2 postseason victories to show for it so far, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's amazing how well those players play once they get out of town. You think about how Blake Griffin is doing there with the Nets. Also, DeAndre Jordan is a member of that team also, Charlton. And we look at the heights that Chris Paul has taken the Phoenix Suns to this year. So maybe that franchise is just jinxed as it is. I mean, when they started out in Buffalo as the Buffalo Sabres and they were led by Bob McAdoo, Charlton, they would always get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. They went down to San Diego, and they were a hard luck team down there in San Diego, Charlton, for years. And they came to Los Angeles, and they really fared no better.
Well, everybody has to understand when you're in LA, you're always going to be the second choice. But Elton Brand, Corey Maggott, Big C, Sam Cassell, the Clipper stars of the early years, whose seasons routinely ended before the playoffs. Think about Terry Cummings, Michael Cage, Danny Manning, the great Danny Manning out of Kansas, leaders of the 1980s LA teams that went an entire decade without making a postseason appearance in all those years down in San Diego, where they decided to get away from one of the most beautiful cities I guess at least in the United States, San Diego. But it's all fair and level war. We will see what happens when it comes to them trying to do their thing. I know I wanna touch on a game that's happening tonight, but before I go there, I want to talk about what's going on in Milwaukee. I know Milwaukee is maybe home of the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, and I'm sure a buck is part of that exotic meat. It's all fair and level war with the Big C burger. But James Harden, when you think about how solid he is out of Artesia High School, Southern California, and probably not going to be playing. He's ruled out, as well as Jeff Green, ruled out for Game 3, Big C. The great Steve Nash, who was handed a job, kind of like somebody's handed a brick of gold, that makes sense to you. They have some hamstring issues and foot issues, injuries that they will not play through in Thursday in the game at Milwaukee. Now, for people that talk so much crap about Anthony Davis trying to play with a pulled groin, you have guys like the great James Harden and Jeff Green. Jeff Green has a couple of championships. They're ruled out also because of injuries, hamstring and foot injuries. How come they don't take the same kind of media flack that Anthony Davis, who's last year's NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers, is taking? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I guess because over the length of their career, Charlton, they have not amounted the number of injuries that Anthony Davis is alleged to amount. I mean, when you look at the totality of games that he's missed behind the 16 various injuries that he has had throughout his short NBA career, Charlton, that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's fair, but it's all fair and love and war. People can criticize what they want to criticize, but I just appreciate guys that are going out there. Big C, almost everybody's playing with some kind of injury. In football, even in preseason, guys get hurt. You have some guys that have been hurt in OTAs in football, Big C. I guess they give them something, they rub on them, and they make the pain go away. Bob Baffert, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, there's a lot of players, Charlton, who will walk out there and deal through that agony of the pain that their body's going through.
Yeah.
Some players just don't have that heart and toughness, Charlton, to do it. I've seen it when I was a player, and I've seen it not being a player, is that some players understand that there's a threshold for pain. Some players say, no, I'm getting paid regardless.
So James Harden doesn't have the ability to go fight through it, and so that's all fair and level where I guess Durant didn't have the ability to fight through the pain, and they decided not to play because it hurt too much, but I disagree with that. It's all fair and level war. I know you even had a couple of surgeries, and when you were on the surgery table, I guess people said you're not tough enough to play. That's why you chose a surgery. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I played a football game one time 6 days after AT surgery, 6 days. Show me a guy that does that now.
Yeah, but you still have the surgery when you should have kept playing based on what you're saying about other players.
I could not play.
Okay,
I went down in the game. After the game, had surgery that night, Charlton. 6 days later, I was back in the lineup.
So when Anthony Davis went down, you're saying you were telling the truth and he wasn't? When Durant went down, you were telling the truth and he wasn't? When Harden pulled out, you were telling the truth and he wasn't? Big C, your thoughts?
I'm saying I played a game 6 days after having knee surgery, Charlton. I didn't ask whether they had surgery or not.
Well, it's all fair and love and war, Big C. That's why I take an athlete's word for it when they say they're really injured. But based on tonight, you have the defending, well, he can't be defending. That's the two-time Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's having their own issues with Milwaukee and Brooklyn. We'll see what happens in that game.
He's defending, just like you say. He has those back-to-back MVP trophies sitting at home polishing them up. So he's the last time defending champion, Jonathan.
No, you just said that Jokic was the champion of the MVP, correct? So that means they got
this year.
Okay, hold on. So that means they got a new champion of a new MVP, correct? Or is that wrong?
Yes. The previous two-time MVP.
Okay, so who's the previous NBA champion? I just want to make sure if you're on the same page.
Previous NBA champions were the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay, just want to make sure you know it's all fair and level war. So tonight, Big C, what the great Rod Stewart say? Tonight's the night. The current NBA MVP mainstream voted for Jokic, and congratulations to him. The NBA basketball universe. The Phoenix Suns, they burned the Denver Nuggets in Game 1 by the tune of 17 points. DeAndre Ayton outplayed the MVP. DeAndre Ayton did not get the memo. Chris Paul also outplayed him, and Booker outplayed him. They did not get the memo. Maybe they got the memo tonight, because if you're the NBA and you know how they like certain images to appear and play more games, Big C, maybe tonight's the night that the Denver Nuggets will even the series for the mainstream and so many other reasons why they're not the better team than the Phoenix Suns. But I just want to pay attention to who goes to the free throw line the most in Phoenix tonight, Big C. Would you have an over/under? Would it be the Phoenix Suns or your friends from Denver, the Nuggets, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jokic did not get to the free throw line in the last game. He didn't shoot one free throw, Charlton, so it's very imperative that he goes out in the paint and plays his typical game. You know, he's been without his top three guards throughout the playoffs. I mean, when Jamal Murray went down, everybody counted Denver out, period, out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But Jokic has held his team together, Charlton, and gotten them into the second round of the playoffs. I think he'll have a more dominant performance tonight. He didn't get outplayed by Ayton in the last game, Charlton. He played him equal, but Jokic still outscored him in the game. But, you know, it's a team effort. I mean, Jokic has got to get his, and he has to facilitate even more. He has to spend more time down in the paint, and hopefully his teammates will follow suit.
Yeah, well, they're probably going to get burned. They're going to get cooked out of that oven in Phoenix. The season changed for the Phoenix Suns basketball team, and I think everybody can attest it got better, and it started with the signing of Chris Paul. Really, I really like he's Mozart, Big C. He immediately made his way to Phoenix to get up shots alongside the great Devin Booker, who's a star rising. And I know on the West Coast, LA and San Francisco with the Warriors and the Lakers are always going to get top billing. That's just the way it is for media. But from the time that Chris Paul signed, they became a new team, Big C, finishing 5th in this year's MVP voting. And you think about his season, it sells it short, Big C. He was the reason that the Suns team finished with the second best record in the West, 51-21, and managing to play and start 70 of the 72 games this season. But when you look at that, I guess that's only good enough for 5th in the MVP voting. I think he has a lot to show tonight. I think if the fouls go the both ways, Big C, making it even, then Phoenix will most likely go up 2-0 over the MVP, the Joker, and those Nuggets from Denver, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, Phoenix has done a marvelous job, and Chris Paul has helped them. You got to understand, this is a team that's had back-to-back seasons, Charlton, of a plus 15 improvement in victories. That's never been done in NBA history.
Yeah.
They were also 8-0 in the bubble last year, so they were able to keep that momentum going that they had in the bubble. And if they had been allowed to play in the playoffs last year, who knows how far they would have been able to go.
Yeah.
But this is a team, Charlton, not caring about the West Coast media because they're there in that mountain time zone there in Arizona, and they're doing their thing. And they come out there, guys, that they're not awestruck by the media that's gone to the players in California, Charlton. They set the table in establishing their own legacy.
Yeah, they're starting their own legacy. And when you look at first place votes, Jokic got 91 first place votes. And I know that marijuana is legal in Denver, and maybe that's where most of his votes came from. How do you get 91?
Well, evidently you said nobody in Denver saw him, so those 91 votes came outside the state.
Well, no, but believe it, they got something in Denver that's handed out in paper bags, Big C. It's all fair and level word. The great Joel Embiid got one? Oh, my goodness. He's about to throw up, Big C. The great Steph Curry, Golden State, got 5. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the defending NBA MVP. We have 2 guys that are outside the United States getting the last 3 MVPs. How does the 2-time defending NBA MVP that has his team flying high, Big C, until they run into Brooklyn, only get 1 vote, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Giannis said it best, Charlton. It's fatigue of hearing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, it's fatigue. I think a lot of the black voters who were trying to vote in the South, they were saying it's fatigue. They didn't want to count their votes. They closed a lot of polling places, so they didn't count their vote. It's all fair and level. Chris Paul received 2. Doncic got 0. How does Luka Doncic get 0 first-place votes, and he's one of the rising stars of the NBA? Dollar Dame, Portland, no votes. Julius Randle, no votes, Big C. Derrick Rose got 1 vote. He got a vote, and Luka Doncic and Damian Lillard, Julius Randle got no votes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, these are your friends in the media who chose not to vote for them.
I tell you, when they made 420 legal, a lot of things went awry. Rudy Gobert, no votes. Russell Westbrook, the great Russell Westbrook, which is a triple-double nightmare for anybody. He got 0 votes, Big C. The great Ben Simmons, no votes. James Harden, no votes for James Harden. LeBron James, no votes. Kawhi Leonard, no votes. I told you when they legalized 420, a lot of people started losing their minds, Big C.
Well, Charlton, the vote is about consistency. This is year in and year out. I've never heard this type of anguish before when other players have won the MVP of the NBA because they were deserving. Nikola Jokic, from the media perspective, was deserving.
Yeah, depends on what media. Like Rudy Giuliani said, your friend, count all the votes. You got to count all the votes. It's all fair.
Well, you just counted them all. You got 91 of them. Nobody else got close.
Yeah. Well, what did Trump say? I want to see poll watchers watching who's voting. It's all fair in love and war. Speaking of that, the 420 thing, whatever it is, I had a lady send me something that it was a cream that you put on your back and it takes away pain. I had some little pain, a pinched nerve in my shoulder, and there was a time I could barely even move my arm. And she said, Charlton, I have this cream that she had some surgery and they gave her this CBD oil and she started using it. She said it took a couple of days, but it made her pain go away. Well, I tried it and I'm like, wait a minute, my shoulder doesn't hurt anymore. It's amazing. So the NFL, Big C, National Football League, you talked about those surgeries that you had back in the day, and the NFL Players Association, they offer millions of dollars in grants and pain research in studying CBD and cannabis to help athletes who swear that it's helping them live healthier and longer lives. Big C, your thoughts?
The NFL, Charlton, has been studying this for years. They've been well aware of the effects of CBD on the body for athletes, Charlton. There's been many players. Rob Gronkowski retired a couple of years ago because he was opening up a CBD company, Charlton. It wasn't that he was just tired of football.
Right.
It was because he could not run his company as well as being a part of the NFL. So he set out that year because there was more money in long term in that than what it was. If you ever go to a Super Bowl, you will see all the convention that goes around the Super Bowl, Charlton, at the Super Bowl experience.
Yeah.
You'll see all the former players who are now invested in CBD companies, Charlton, and they're passing out their product. You can go online and see this. This has been well known by the NFL for years, but also the NFL is supported by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
So do you want to throw away that pharmaceutical money, Charlton, that's been going into the pockets of the owners and the league for decades versus the new product on the market?
That's a very, very good statement, and they will get it in. No matter what they name it, they will get it in. I appreciate that players say it helps them live longer. And my pinched nerve, it really did go away. You can only take so much ibuprofen. So when we think about, I can't believe someone's promoting CBD. I can't believe that they're doing that. Well, something that's promoted in almost every professional sports stadium, Big C. The Cleveland Browns chief of staff, her name is Kylie Brownson. She's suspended after a DUI. What person's so dumb in 2021 that you're going to drink and drive? Oh, I can handle 3 beers. I can handle 4 beers.
That's called half of America, Charlton.
Well, half of America, but she's suspended after DUI. I guess people haven't learned their lesson from the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not even going to get into it, what happened. I hope that you're going to be better.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
How do you get a DUI?
Driving under the influence, drinking and driving while you're drinking the beers, I guess.
But what facilitates you, Charlton?
Being pulled over?
You have to get caught.
Yeah.
If you don't get caught, nobody knows. That's the theme of America. You have to get caught first.
Yeah, well, she got caught. According to court documents, she got caught. Bronson was charged with drunken driving. On May 27 in Brunswick, Ohio, she reportedly was driving 55 in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. She was stopped at 12:27 a.m. Police said her blood alcohol content was 0.215. The state's legal limit basically is 0.08. At some point in time, if an athlete, she's suspended, she probably won't lose her job. But when that happens to players, oftentimes they go through a lot of problems with even trying to stay employed and keeping fines. And then you have Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and you have the young girls that were injured by Brett Reed running into the back of them in Missouri right before the Super Bowl, Big C. And I don't know if you can only say it so many times. Anyone who drinks and drives, you're just dumb, and you deserve to be arrested.
Who is one of professional sports and the NFL's biggest sponsors, Charlton?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Who?
I'm not going to say the name. You can say
the alcohol company.
Yeah, you're right.
The NFL is an advocate for alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
The NBA, Major League Baseball, Charlton, you are not going to go into an arena or a stadium where they're not walking around with buckets of beer, passing them to the fans, tell them to consume as much as you can during this game. So they are advocates for alcoholism. So whenever somebody in any one of these leagues, especially in the front office, that is in management, that are a coach, gets into a situation where they've been driving while intoxicated, The league is an advocate, just like when I was talking about a league is an advocate for narcotics, Charlton, legal narcotics, painkillers. And when a player gets caught on that stuff, Charlton, the league is being funded by these companies. They pay millions and millions of dollars, Charlton, to the league to hang their banners in the stadium and to have their products in the stadium.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is talking about the guy with the glass in his hand who is serving it. They're one and the same.
Big C, very well said. Sometimes the left hand doesn't see what the right hand's doing, and if it does, it won't tell.
They see it because one has the money and the other one has the cash register.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. Speaking of money and cash registers, the great Garrett Cole, if you don't see me putting something on my ball, you ever put something on your ball you're not supposed to, Big C, your son?
Well, I stopped shaving my head a long time ago, Charlton.
It's all fair. 11 war. He couldn't even answer the question. He said an old man told him how to doctor the baseball, Big C, your son.
Well, Charlton, I mean, I don't know where the naivety comes through. Baseball has never stopped doctoring the baseball.
Yeah.
It has always been done. And done it, I watched it as a youth growing up.
Yeah.
Whenever I had the opportunity to go to a major league game, Charlton,
yeah.
it was wide open. And especially as I got older and we saw the cameras get better on the mound as you watch these older pitchers, Charlton, doctor up the baseball. And even friends of mine, when we were in the same stadium playing football and baseball, I watched these guys, and they would show you the illegal practices that they would do with the baseball, Charlton, to make it even better for them. This is one of the reasons why baseball is talking about moving back to mound.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to take the cheating out of the game, which they can never do.
Yeah.
Baseball has always been a cheating affair.
That's like taking the cheating out of relationships with all the dating websites. They're just for people's curiosity, Big C. Nobody's cheating. They just have the dating websites for people's curiosity as they've grown into billion-dollar industries. It's all fair, love and war. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Major League Baseball, the girls love the long ball, and the men love hit the deep. It's all fair and love and war. Of course, Cole didn't know what he was putting on that ball. The Giants beat the Rangers. Well, the Giants played the Rangers today. The Rangers got the better of them. I don't like giving out scores. It was the Diamondbacks at the Athletics, the Cubs at the Padres, Big C, the Mets taking on the Orioles, the Dodgers at the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Braves and Philadelphia doing their thing in the city of brotherly love, Milwaukee Brewers at the Cincinnati Reds, the Colorado Rockies. They may get some of that stuff that Joker's been handed out. They playing in Florida and playing the Miami Marlins, the Washington Nationals at the Tampa Bay Rays, who are doing their thing, the Seattle Mariners at the Detroit Tigers, the Astros at the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays at Tony La Russa's Chicago White Sox, the New York Yankees and the Minnesota Twins have been delayed to be determined. Indians are at the Cardinals. The Royals are at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So one more time, without you giving out any names, because everybody thinks that only the Houston Astros were up to shenanigans, Big C. But I heard in Texas, if you're not cheating, then you really aren't trying. You said some good old boys told you, or they showed you how they doctored the ball, how they doctored the balls, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, they've done both. I mean, it's been a universal thing throughout baseball history, Charlton, that pitchers are always striving to get an advantage. From scuff baseballs to any type of foreign substance that they can put on the ball, whether it's a Vaseline, Charlton, whether it's spit, whatever they can do, pine tar. Pitchers have gone through a egregious method of putting stuff on the baseball. And everybody has known it, Charlton. It's nothing new. It's just like with batters. When they cork a bat, when they hollow out the end of a bat, Charlton, to make the bat lighter. Everybody in baseball, when you talk about impurity in professional sports, baseball has always been the forefront of that. If you ever go back through the records of baseball and you look at all the scandals and everything that has gone on, baseball has been the one sport that players have always used drugs in. And now they're trying to clean it up, Charlton. Baseball has gotten too far gone for anybody to try to clean it up. Rob Manfred has known about this from day one when he became commissioner. But you turn a blind eye because you're trying to keep butts in the seat and keep the fans excited.
I agree 100%. A lot of the home run era that we've been going through over the last 20 plus years, a lot of new stadiums were built based on somebody putting Rob Baffert as their friend. If that makes sense. Be careful what you let people put in your butt. WNBA schedule, Seattle's at Atlanta, and Indiana is at Chicago's all fair and level war. I know a lot of things that you love, Big C, have to do with ice, whether it's your homemade Kool-Aid that you put on ice, Big C, or sometimes watching the good old boys skating around in the hockey rinks and they're doing their thing on ice. In the NBA hockey playoffs, universe, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C, they stormed past Carolina 2-0, and they are advancing. There's something in the water down in Tampa, whether it's the Buccaneers or the Lightning or the Rays. They're all trying to advance in the playoffs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think when you talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, you're talking about the defending Stanley Cup champions, Charlton, who are trying to repeat. And right now they're on a run, Charlton. They are one of the hottest teams in the NHL. They have gone through each one of their playoff series, and they're in the semis now, and they're looking to get back to Lord Stanley's Cup.
They're looking to get back. Hold on, Big C. You got to say it accurately if you want to pay homage to it. It's Lord Stanley's Big C Cup. Okay, it's now called the Lord Stanley Big C Cup. It's all fair in love and war. Another good old boy that's trying to get to a cup, and I don't know what they're going to put in that cup, Big C, but someone trying to get to the cup. You look at the NHL playoff hockey universe in the Las Vegas Knights. They're looking to stop the Avalanches in Colorado. This team out of Las Vegas, it's amazing that the Colorado Avalanche, they're probably second loved in Vegas to the Raiders. Maybe I can't say that for sure because we haven't seen fans yet allowed into Allegiant Stadium. But this is a team, Big C, on the ice. They're always giving the people in Vegas something to cheer for when it comes to playoffs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this has been the most successful franchise in NHL history. So the Las Vegas Raiders are going to have a long way to go to climb up that totem pole to be the most successful team in that city. When you think about, they've never missed the playoffs since they've been in the NHL, and they've already been in a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
The Oakland Raiders only hope to have that type of success down in the desert.
Yeah, well, you know John Gruden, he's about winning, Big C. If you don't win, he's going to call you a blankety blank multi buck, and he'll get $100 million for cussing. It's all
Well,
fair.
I mean, all the Raiders got to do if they want to see a winning game, Charlton, to show up at a night game.
Yeah, it's all fair. 11 World, we will see what happens. Also in the NHL hockey playoffs, universe, them good old boys. When you think about it, you got to go all the way to New York City. The New York Islanders on the brink of eating the Boston Bruins. You know, the Bruin is a bear. Gotham City, they have the biggest bats, allegedly, in the universe. And they all show up at Knicks games, Big C. And then when you think about the New York Islanders, could they be the team that the city of New York leans on for a championship, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Boston is going to have to lean on Tuukka Rask to go. He is going to have to go back and wake up the ghost from a couple of years ago when they were in the series against the St. Louis Blues when they won their first title, Charlton. And now the Boston Bruins are on the edge of elimination. The New York Islanders have always been one of the perennial teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Charlton, and they're seeking to get back into the semis.
Yeah, they're seeking to get back into the semis, Big C. The Montreal Canadiens have short-handed success in eliminating the Winnipeg Jets. It's an all-Canadian affair, Big C. We love all Canada. The Montreal Canadiens eliminated the Winnipeg Jets 3-2 on Monday at the Bell Center, Big C, up in Canada and Montreal, Quebec. The Canadiens needed extra time to eliminate the Jets in overtime, and they did so, and now they're moving on to the next round. You know, there's something, I love the fact that we blend sports in the United States and in Canada. We do it in NHL. We do it in Major League Baseball. We even do it in NBA basketball. It would be nice if they did the same thing in football. We're always talking about having football in Europe, Big C. They want to play football in South America. How about putting an NFL team or maybe two into Canada? It's worked for baseball. It's also worked for basketball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the problem with that is that Canada has its own league that's been around for well over 100 years. And I think they have this thing maybe called eminent domain, that it does not allow the NFL to come play regular season games in Canada. I have to look into that. But, you know, why would you want to go up there and compete against something that's been around for a long time?
Yeah, well, they do it in basketball, and they also do it in baseball.
But the NBA doesn't. You got to understand, the NBA started, and it actually had a team in Canada years ago, Charlton, and now, you know, that they've gone back in there, but only one team was successful, and they had to leave out of Vancouver. They went down to Memphis. But you're talking about going into a country, and that country would have to allow it, and I don't think they're going to have that type of free trade.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war, Big C. I wish everybody nothing but the best, but a lot of players play NFL and CFL football. It's all fair and level war. I want to turn, I don't even know what happened tonight in college softball, Big C. I know a lot of great baseballs being played all around the country, and now the softball champions are about to be crowned between, if it hasn't already happened, they have just today and then I believe tomorrow. But NCAA Women College Softball Championship and the NCAA Softball Universe for Women Big C. Florida State won the first game 8-4 in game 1. Game 2 happened today. I don't know what happened in the game because I haven't watched it. It's on my DVR, but it's the best 2 of 3 that's going to win the World Series championship for softball in 2 great institutions with Florida State and Oklahoma. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Florida State took the big bats out of Oklahoma's hands last night, Johnson, in that 8-4 victory. They held the Sooner ladies in check, and you know that they've been a team that has scored a lot of runs this year, but they could not muster them last night against the Lady Seminoles, Johnson. These 2 teams are playing from the losers bracket and made the ladies finals in College World Series baseball, Johnson.
Yeah.
The last team to do that, to go from the losers bracket to being the national champion, was the Florida State Seminoles back in 2018 when they had to go long distance, Charlton, to win the ladies title in college baseball.
Yeah, it's all fair and level. Where I wishing everybody nothing but the best. These young women are down there doing the best they can. And unlike when you look at the men's side, a lot of the men's, when they have the men's college World Series Big C, they get a chance to get drafted and get over into professional baseball, whether they go into the minor leagues or they get into the big leagues right away. And the ladies, unfortunately, do not have the same opportunity to do that. It's all fair in level war. I want to just read something on African-American history. In 1739, the Stonewall Rebellion, one of the earliest slave revolts, took place in Stonewall, South Carolina, near Charleston, South Carolina. A score of whites and more than twice as many black slaves were killed as the armed slaves tried to flee to Florida. And you can Google that information about what happened. It's called the Stonewall Rebellion. And people have always had to fight for the opportunity to have freedom. And unfortunately, it's caused too many people too many tragedies. Big C, final story today. We hear this great quarterback by the name of Omaha. Well, the Denver Broncos, and some NFL news stories, they decide to have, I guess, they gonna say, John Elway, step aside. We're gonna make, Manning, he's a 35th player to be in the Denver Broncos Ring of Fame. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a great honor. When you think about Peyton Manning, he's in the Ring of Honor at the University of Tennessee. He's in the Ring of Honor with the Indianapolis Colts, and now he's been honored and being in that ring at the Denver Broncos, Charlton. When you think about the illustrious career that this quarterback has had, he's deserved all the recognition that he has gotten.
Yeah, he's gotten it all. And I got one more story to bring up since you brought up what he did in college. In college sports, international student athletes face an NIL conundrum, Big C, and no one seems to have an answer. The new laws, of which at least half a dozen are set to take effect in July, they provide a framework for domestic college athletes to make money from the things like endorsements. I'm sure Manning had a lot of endorsements down at Tennessee, if that makes sense to you, Big C, autographs or hosting camps. However, the international student athletes, which account for about 12% of Division I athletes, Big C, according to the NCAA's latest report, they remain in a legal no man's land thanks to a caveat within the visa program that prevents anyone on an F or F student visa from earning a substantial income while studying in the United States. That doesn't make any sense, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, these are U.S. laws, and this is the reason why they've been trying to get Congress involved in the NIL license, Charlton, to make a federal ruling on this instead of state-by-state issue.
Yeah.
When you have these international students and they're limited as far as the amount of income that they can earn once they're coming over here on a scholarship into the United States, Charlton, it's going to create a problem because when you think about some of the best college basketball players in the United States, Charlton, they're from outside the United States. And when we have 12% of all student athletes in the United States, Charlton, from outside of this country, a lot of those would be in the position where they could earn revenue off the NIL, Charlton, but they're going to be limited because of the rules.
Yeah, it's all fair, love, and Big C. Anytime you want something, you got to fight for your right to party. We heard that in a group back in the day. It's all fair in love and war. But you don't have to fight to rise and shine. You just got to rise and shine. And Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, as the great Donovan Mitchell would say, Charlton, you got to tell the Los Angeles Clippers to stop putting that hot sauce on their steak and learn how to relax and don't choke so much. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses and doctors and first responders. Remember, if the Clippers are choking, they can use the Heimlich maneuver on them.
Yeah, and all of our first responders do the same thing. If someone's choking, use the Heimlich maneuver. It's all fair and level war. You don't need the Heimlich maneuver every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As my mom always says, it's time to rise and shine. There's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.